Imagine a world where the gods and goddesses are not just stories, but they control everything around you, from the sun rising to the flooding of the Nile River. Welcome to ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, people didn't just see the sun rise or the river flood. They believed it was all the work of mighty gods and goddesses. The gods didn't just live in the sky or in temples. They were believed to shape the world and control every part of life. The Egyptians saw the world as being full of powerful, unseen forces that affected everything, from the crops that grew to how the pharaohs ruled. And these forces were controlled by a pantheon of gods and goddesses who had their own personalities, strengths, and stories. Egyptian mythology isn't just a collection of ancient tales. It was a belief system that shaped the way people lived and thought about their world. From birth to death, the gods and goddesses were everywhere. People would pray, make offerings, and even build grand temples in honor of these powerful beings. Every part of daily life, from the rising sun to the harvest season, was influenced by a god or goddess, each having their own unique power and role. In this video, we're going to dive into the incredible world of Egyptian mythology. We'll meet the most famous gods and goddesses, learn about their powers, and explore the myths that explain how they shaped the world. What makes Egyptian mythology so interesting is that it's full of surprising twists and dramatic stories. Imagine gods fighting for control, magical powers that could heal or destroy, and a whole universe where life, death, and everything in between were controlled by these mighty beings. By the end of this journey, you'll not only know who the major gods and goddesses are, but also how they impacted the ancient Egyptians and even us today. Who were the Egyptian gods and goddesses? In Egyptian mythology, gods and goddesses were considered powerful, immortal beings who controlled the world and everything in it, from life and death to the sun and the underworld. They weren't just stories people told. They were believed to be real, shaping everything that happened around them. These gods were seen as immortal, meaning they never died and always had control over the forces of nature. For example, the god Ra, who controlled the sun, would travel across the sky every day, ensuring that light and warmth would reach the earth. The gods could be everywhere at once, and their power was endless. Now, Egypt didn't just have one or two gods. It had a whole pantheon. That's a fancy word for a group of gods and goddesses, each with their own special powers and roles. Each of these gods and goddesses had their own stories, often called myths, that explained why they were important and what they did. These stories weren't just entertainment. They were believed to explain the world and the universe itself. For example, the goddess Isis was known for her wisdom and magical powers, while her husband Osiris was the god of the afterlife and the ruler of the dead. Each god or goddess controlled a specific part of life, whether it was nature, magic, or even the protection of the king. The myths behind these gods helped explain everything from why the Nile River flooded each year, to why the sun set at night, and even what happened after people died. Each myth told a story that was meant to teach lessons about the world, and the people of Egypt believed these stories were true. The gods and goddesses were more than just figures and stories. They were a huge part of the daily lives of the ancient Egyptians. People believed the gods were always watching over them, and that they could influence everything from the weather to the harvest. Imagine this. Every time someone prayed for a good harvest or protection from a dangerous flood, they were asking the gods to help. They would go to temples, offer food, flowers, and sometimes even gold to honor the gods and keep them happy. If they believed the gods were pleased, they thought their crops would grow, their families would stay safe, and their rulers would be strong. Worshipping the gods was something people did every day. The pharaoh, who was seen as a living god himself, would perform rituals to make sure the gods stayed pleased. In return, the gods would provide blessings, like good weather for crops or protection from enemies. Massive temples were built in the names of the gods, and people would visit these places to give offerings or ask for help. Each god had their own temple and priests who would lead special ceremonies. Major Egyptian gods and goddesses. Ra, the sun god. Ra was the god of the sun and arguably the most important god in Egyptian mythology. He was believed to travel across the sky in his boat, bringing the sunlight to the earth each day. But his journey didn't end when the sun set. At night, Ra was said to travel through the underworld, where he faced dangerous creatures before being reborn in the morning, ready to start his journey again. The ancient Egyptians believed that Ra created everything. Without the sun, they thought nothing could exist. The sun was the heart of life itself. Ra was also seen as the ruler of the sky and the earth. People believed that he had a special connection to the pharaohs, who were seen as his earthly representatives. Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Osiris was the god of life, death, and the afterlife. He ruled the underworld, but he was also seen as the god who gave people a chance at life after death. The most famous story about Osiris is one of betrayal. His brother, Set, was jealous of Osiris and killed him, but Osiris was brought back to life by his wife, Isis. Osiris didn't just come back to life. He became the ruler of the underworld, where he helped guide souls to the afterlife. He was the one who judged whether someone had lived a good life and deserved to enter paradise. Osiris is often shown with green skin, symbolizing rebirth, and holding a scepter to represent his rule over the afterlife. Isis, the mother goddess. Isis was one of the most loved and powerful goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon. She was known as a protector and the goddess of magic and healing. People believed she could heal the sick and protect families, making her one of the most important figures in the Egyptian world. One of the most famous stories about Isis is her search for the body of her husband, Osiris, after he was killed by Set. Her love and devotion were so strong that she managed to bring Osiris back to life for a short time. Isis was also known for her wisdom, kindness, and magical powers. People believed that by praying to Isis, they could receive protection and healing. She was seen as the goddess who kept families and communities safe from harm. Horus, the falcon god. Horus was the son of Osiris and Isis. He was the god of the sky, kingship, and protection. Often shown as a falcon or a man with a falcon head, Horus was linked to the sun and the heavens. His most famous symbol is the Eye of Horus, which was believed to bring protection and good health. Horus played a huge role in Egyptian culture because the pharaohs were seen as his earthly representatives. They believed that the pharaohs were chosen by Horus to rule Egypt. The Eye of Horus symbolized the pharaoh's authority and protection over the land. The Eye of Horus was also used as a powerful amulet to keep people safe from harm and to bring good fortune. Anubis, the god of mummification. Anubis was the god of mummification and the protector of tombs. He is usually shown with the head of a jackal, as jackals were often seen around tombs and burial sites. Anubis oversaw the mummification process, ensuring that bodies were preserved so that the soul could live forever. Anubis played an important role in helping souls pass into the afterlife. One of his most crucial jobs was to guide the deceased through the weighing of the heart ceremony. In this ceremony, the heart of the deceased person was weighed against a feather to determine if they had lived a good life. The Egyptians believed that if your heart was light, like a feather, you had lived a good life and would be welcomed into the afterlife. If it was heavy with wrongdoing, the soul would be devoured by a fearsome monster. Set, the god of chaos. Set was the god of chaos, storms, and the desert. He was often depicted as a fearsome figure who brought disorder and destruction. In many myths, Set is the villain, especially in the story where he kills his brother Osiris in a fit of jealousy. Set represents the chaotic forces in the world, storms, violence, and war. But while he is often seen as evil, Set also played an important role in Egyptian mythology. He protected the sun god Ra during his nightly journey through the underworld, fighting off evil creatures that could harm him. Even though Set was considered a villain, he was also worshipped in some parts of Egypt, especially by pharaohs, who saw him as a protector of the king during battle. The role of myths and symbols. In Egyptian culture, myths were more than just stories. They were the way people explained the world around them. These myths helped people understand the mysteries of life, death, and the forces of nature. Take the myth of Osiris and Isis, for example. It wasn't just a tale of love and betrayal. It explained life, death, and what happens after we die. Osiris's death and resurrection symbolize the cycle of life and the promise of an afterlife, offering hope to the people of Egypt. Ra's journey across the sky in his boat explained the movement of the sun. Every day, Ra would travel from the east to the west, bringing light to the world, and every night, he would battle darkness in the underworld before being reborn again at dawn. Through myths, the Egyptians connected the gods to everyday events. They explained everything from why the Nile flooded each year to why the seasons changed and why the sun rose and set. Myths gave meaning to these natural occurrences and made people feel like they had control over the world through their connection with the gods. In addition to myths, the Egyptians used symbols to represent the gods and their powers. These symbols were seen everywhere, from temples and tombs to jewelry and everyday objects. The symbols helped people feel close to the gods, and each symbol had deep meaning. One of the most famous symbols is the Eye of Horus. It was believed to offer protection, healing, and good health. The Eye of Horus was so powerful that many people wore it as an amulet to keep themselves safe from harm and danger. Another important symbol is the Ankh, which looks like a cross with a loop at the top. The Ankh represented life and immortality. It was often seen in the hands of gods and pharaohs, symbolizing their power over life and death. The scarab beetle was also a powerful symbol of rebirth and protection. People believed the scarab had the ability to roll the sun across the sky, just like the god Ra did each day. This made the scarab a symbol of renewal and transformation, especially in the afterlife. As you can see, Egyptian mythology is filled with powerful and fascinating gods and goddesses. These deities were not just figures in ancient stories. They were deeply embedded in the lives of the ancient Egyptians. From controlling the sun and the afterlife to offering protection and wisdom, these gods shaped how people understood the world around them. Their stories helped explain everything, from the cycles of nature to life, death, and rebirth. And, of course, they were honored through rituals, symbols, and myths that guided everyday life. Even though Egyptian mythology is part of an ancient belief system, many of its symbols and stories continue to inspire us today. Whether it's the Eye of Horus symbolizing protection or stories of gods like Ra and Isis, these ancient beliefs are still reflected in art, literature, and even popular culture. Think about the movies, books, and shows you've seen that feature Egyptian gods. These timeless myths have been passed down for thousands of years, continuing to influence how we tell stories and understand the world today. So, the next time you see an ancient Egyptian symbol or hear a myth about one of their gods, you'll know the rich stories and deeper meanings behind them. Egyptian mythology is far from just ancient history. It's a living part of our cultural imagination that still touches our lives in many ways.